Most of the time when we search something on the internet, we don't think twice about how the results appear. We simply type a question, hit enter, and trust that whatever floats to the top must be the best answer. But deep down, there's a quiet mystery hiding in plain sight. Why this page? Why these results? Why does one website earn the spotlight while another vanishes into the shadows of page 4? Today, we're going to peel back that curtain. Not with jargon, not with complicated algorithm talk, but with simple ideas that actually make sense. Because the truth behind search ranking isn't just about technology. It's about people. It's about how we behave, what we trust, and what we choose without even noticing. This is the hidden logic behind how Google decides who wins. And once you understand it, the entire internet starts to look different. Imagine you search for something simple online. Maybe best coffee grinders, or how to fix a squeaky door, or why cats suddenly sprint around at 3 a.m. You hit enter, and instantly Google hands you a list of answers. But have you ever paused to ask a strangely obvious question? Why these answers? Why does one website sit on the throne at rank 1, while another nearly identical page quietly dies somewhere on page 4, the digital equivalent of an abandoned desert? Today, we're going to unpack that. But we're not doing it with jargon or algorithm talk or search engine optimization wizardry. Instead, we're going to explain how search ranking actually works in the real world, using the same lens Google uses, not code, but human behavior. And as strange as it sounds, the logic is surprisingly simple, almost relatable. Because despite its trillion-dollar infrastructure, Google often behaves exactly like a very busy human, making a very rushed decision. Let's begin. Imagine Google as a hyperactive librarian. This librarian manages the largest library in human history, except instead of organizing millions of books, they organize hundreds of billions of web pages. And every second, a crowd of people rush up to the desk asking questions. What is the capital of Iceland? How do I unclog my sink? Why do I dream about my high school math teacher, even though I graduated 10 years ago? Google barely has time to think. It can't sit down, sip tea, and carefully read each page to decide which one is best. That doesn't scale. Instead, it's forced to rely on fast clues signals that help it guess which page is most likely to satisfy you as quickly as possible. That's really the secret. Google doesn't actually know which page is best. It predicts the best page. It makes its best guess based on patterns it has learned from billions of past searches. And the very first thing it checks is simple. Does this page even look like it answers the question? Think of someone walking into a bookstore. They ask the clerk for a book on baking sourdough bread. The clerk doesn't read the entire shelf. They look at the covers, the titles, maybe flip through the first paragraph. They're looking for surface-level alignment. Does this book appear to match the request? Google does the same thing. It glances at the title of the page, the headline, the first few lines of text, and the general topic. If the page looks like it's about something totally different, like baking lasagna, it gets tossed out instantly. But that's the easy part. The second question Google asks is far more interesting among the pages that could answer the question, which ones feel the most trustworthy? Now, trust on the internet is tricky. Google doesn't have an actual trust meter. It can't interview the website owner. It can't check diplomas. What it does instead is something surprisingly human. It looks for social proof. If other websites link to this page, especially websites that are themselves respected, Google interprets that as a recommendation. It's like asking a group of friends, "Hey, do you know a good plumber?" If 10 trustworthy friends recommend the same plumber, you don't need to check a certificate. The crowd has spoken. These links function like votes. Not every vote counts the same. A link from a random new blog is like a vote from your cousin who once tried to fix a toilet and flooded the whole bathroom. A link from an established publication, on the other hand, is like a vote from a professional contractor who fixes pipes for a living. Over time, these votes accumulate, and Google gets a sense of who's reputable, who's new, and who might be a bit sketchy. But even trust isn't enough. Because you can have a trustworthy plumber who still shows up late or forgets their tools. So Google asks a third question: do users actually like this page? This is the part nobody talks about, but it matters the most. Because once people start clicking around, they behave in ways that reveal whether the page is genuinely helpful. If you click a page and immediately bounce back to Google, that's not a compliment. That's like walking into a restaurant smelling the food and walking right back out. Google notices that. It doesn't panic, it just quietly learns, maybe this page isn't that good. If people click and stay, that's a better signal. And if many people stay, scroll, read, share, and don't come back to repeat their search, well, Google interprets that as a huge yes, this was the right answer. It's like recommending a movie to a friend and watching them finish it, love it, and tell 5 other people. Positive feedback loops like this are gold. So when you see one page ranking high and another buried far below, it usually comes down to these 3 simple questions. Does it match the query? Does it feel trustworthy? And do real humans like it? But let's dig deeper because there's a twist. Google doesn't judge your page in isolation. Every time someone searches for something, they're triggering a tiny election. Not a dramatic election with posters and debates, but millions of miniature elections every day, each deciding which page should sit at the top. And humans are the voters. Every click, every scroll, every exit, every moment of curiosity or frustration, it's all part of the ongoing tally. This makes search rankings surprisingly organic. It's always changing. Google might test a new page at rank 5, observe how people react, then bump it to rank 2. Maybe people behave worse there, they click it and leave quickly, so Google demotes it again. Pages rise and fall not because Google changes its algorithm, but because people change their behavior. And that brings us to something many people don't realize. The top spot on Google isn't a reward. It's a trial position. You aren't promoted to rank 1 because Google believes in you. You're promoted because Google wants to see if users will like you more than the current champion. If they don't, you get dropped. If they do, you stay. Probably the most misunderstood part of search ranking is this: Google is not trying to reward websites. It's trying to satisfy users. Websites are just the tools. The real customer is the person searching. And like any smart business, Google wants the customer to be happy enough to come back again tomorrow. Now, if all this sounds strangely human, you're right. Think about your everyday choices. When you search for a new cafe, you don't visit every single one. You skim photos, glance at reviews, maybe check who recommended it. When you pick a movie, you look at the thumbnail, read a line or two, and use subtle social signals to decide. When you choose a book, you judge the cover flip. The first page, maybe look at how many people rated it. These are shortcuts, heuristics, and Google relies on the same shortcuts, except on a planetary scale. So why do some pages win while others lose? Let's break it down without fancy terminology. First, relevance. A page that clearly answers the question is halfway to victory. If the title and intro align with what the user wants, Google considers it. Second, credibility. Pages with more recommendations, which is all backlinks really are, have a major advantage. It's reputation quantified. Third, user satisfaction. Google watches how people behave. Humans vote with their clicks. They also vote with how long they stay. And those votes accumulate into rankings. Put together, it forms a simple triad. Be useful, be trusted, be liked. Not magical, not mysterious, just human. But let's talk about something uncomfortable. The game isn't perfectly fair. Bigger sites have a head start. They already have reputation. They already have backlinks. They already have returning users. Meanwhile, smaller or newer sites start at 0. Google doesn't penalize them, but the gulf in reputation is real. Yet, here's the interesting part. New pages can rise quickly because Google constantly tests them. It's like letting a new cafe take the spotlight for a weekend to see if customers enjoy it. If they do, it becomes a hit. If not, the spotlight moves. And sometimes the quirks of human behavior create surprising results. A page might become popular because it has a great title, or because it loads fast on mobile. or because the content is unexpectedly funny, or because someone shared it on social media and suddenly thousands of people clicked in, causing Google to reevaluate its importance. Search ranking isn't rigid. It breathes. So the next time you search for something and see that familiar stack of answers, remember you're not just looking at what Google found. You're looking at what the world voted for. Every ranking is a snapshot of billions of tiny human decisions layered together. And behind all the complexity, a simple truth emerges. Google isn't trying to outsmart you. It's trying to understand you. It watches what you click, what you read, what you abandon, what you finish. And slowly, silently, it learns. Not just about you, but about all of us. It learns what people value, what they trust, what they ignore, what they enjoy without even noticing. Search ranking is not a machine choosing pages. It's humanity choosing pages with Google acting as the middleman. And maybe the more interesting question isn't how Google chooses pages, but how Google's choices shape our behavior in return. If the top results influence what we believe, how we shop, what we learn, and even who we trust, then search ranking isn't just a technical problem, it's a cultural force. One that determines which ideas spread and which quietly disappear. So next time you search online, take a moment. Look at the results. And remember, beneath all the technology, all the infrastructure, and all the algorithms, the ranking you see is really a mirror. A reflection of what billions of people collectively decided was worth their time. And with that, you now understand why some pages win. So the next time you search for something, take a second to notice what you're looking at. These rankings aren't just a technical list. They're a reflection of millions of human decisions. A portrait of what we collectively found useful, credible, and worth clicking on. Search results may feel automatic, almost invisible, but they quietly shape what we learn, what we buy, and what we believe. And now you understand the forces behind them. The shortcuts, the human judgments, the quiet elections happening every second. If you found this explanation helpful and want more deep dives into how the systems around us actually work, feel free to stick around. There's a lot more to explain. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.